those agents who just crush it every year and you're not quite sure why? You know what? Actually, you probably don't know because they are quiet about all of their habits. So I'm going to tell you today the 7 habits of quietly successful real estate agents. First up, pregame preparation. These agents are looking at everything before they list the house, or if on the buyer's side, before they let their buyer go under contract. So I'm talking about looking at the deed, to make sure that the names on the contract are actually correct, by the way. Looking at the taxes, looking at restrictive covenants. I couldn't tell you how many times I get to a closing table or even in the due diligence period and a buyer has no idea that there were restrictive covenants at all. It is best practice to look at those things before you are ever under contract, and as a listing agent to know what covenants apply to the property before you take the listing. We get emails from agents all the time that if they're ever having trouble locating or if they're not sure, I answered one just a couple minutes ago, in fact, just trying to find the restrictions, they will reach out to make sure they know what's actually up with the property. Another thing on taxes, we've also seen several agents miss where there might be deferred taxes or exemptions that will affect how the taxes are prorated. And they could have seen it on a tax bill, but they didn't bother to look. So they've got sellers mad at them when they find out they have to pay 3 years of rollback deferred taxes because the new buyer is not going to keep the property for agricultural use or forestry or whatever it may have been. And that's something that could have been discussed well in advance, or it could have affected how a seller chose who they would let buy the property. They may have tried to choose someone that would keep the property in that use so that they wouldn't have to pay the deferred taxes. So preparation is key. The quietly successful agents always prepared. Next is proactive communication. This is with all sides of, everybody on their side of the deal knows what's up at any given time. And this is not continuous communication. I want to be clear. You don't want to pester people. You don't want to every hour be giving information piecemeal. Daily, weekly, whatever the cadence is, sharing information, even if sometimes, maybe you got a long time between contract and closing, sometimes the update is that, hey, we're moving right along, nothing to report, we're right on track. And that helps keep the parties calm. And the communication, not just to their client, but to the rest of their side of the deal. So keeping the buyer's attorney informed, kind of coordinating between the lender, the inspector, the attorney, whoever has to be involved, and making sure that everybody has the information that is needed. The best agents I deal with never assume that someone else told me information. They will tell me themselves. Even if it was supposed to be someone else's job to tell me, even if it was supposed to be the lender to send the title request, they make sure that something was done so that they can have their eye on the ball and can keep everybody up to date. The next thing, they know the standard offer to purchase better than anybody else. There's no question that they know it like the back of their hands. They stay up to date on the changes. They know why the changes were made. They know how to help their clients understand the importance of the contract and their obligations under the contract. They know when they can't draft things to the contract. I get addendums all the time that I'm like, who prepared this? I don't know that whoever prepared this is allowed to prepare this. And then I gently suggest maybe we have an attorney prepare this so that it includes all the terms that are needed. But those quietly successful agents, they don't fall into those traps because they know that contract inside and out. And if there becomes a question about the parties and their duties or their rights under the contract, they know right where to go. If there comes a time where they find out that the buyer got a survey, but the survey wasn't going to be completed until after the due diligence period expires, they know that the seller still has to convey clear title. And they know that, regardless of what's found on a title search, that the seller still has an obligation to deliver that clear title. And they're not freaking out because of it, because they know what the contract says. That's probably my favorite thing. Next, these agents have systems, and it doesn't have to be fancy. I'm not saying you got to have the fancy CRM. You got to have every app on your phone. They might just have a checklist that goes in the front of a paper file so that they know where everything is at any given time. They know what they need to be following up on. They're not trying to just keep it all in their head. The busier you get as an agent, if you've got one deal, maybe you can keep it all in your head. But as you continue to grow, or if you're in a particularly busy season, keeping it all in your head just doesn't work. So these agents that can keep it together, they've got a system. They find the one that works for them, but their system is systematized. So it doesn't stray from one file to the next. They know what they need on every file. They follow it to a T. And that way they're able to keep everybody rowing in the same direction and they make sure they don't miss anything. Another personal favorite of mine is that they are always learning. As a lover of knowledge myself, that's why I really identify with this, because they're always keeping up to date. I love it when an agent tells me something that changed that I haven't even found out yet because it came out that morning or, whatever it may be. It's like, it lights me up. I'm like, oh, let's talk about it. Tell me what you know, because it shows that they care about their craft and it helps them be better at their jobs and serve their clients better. And they might do it differently. Maybe you're someone that likes to watch YouTube videos like this one. Maybe when you are, walking through the neighborhood at night just to clear your head, maybe you put in a podcast. Maybe you're watching webinars that are offered either by your team or that you've sought out yourself on a subject that you're interested in. But those agents are finding ways to learn the way that they learn best so that they can stay up to date. Up next, the quietly successful agents are very strategic about who they deal with. And I've noticed that it's not just about who is, they might not go to the most popular closing attorney, or maybe they don't deal with the lender that is like the household name and that they have the commercials on TV. They go less about popularity and more about values. They will align themselves with people that believe the things that they believe as far as how their customers should be treated, their ethics, etc. And they will align themselves with those people because they know when things get hard, what is at the core, they will all be on the same team. It won't be an unknown of, is the lender that I'm dealing with, are they ethical or are they going to try to do something that's not quite right? The inspector that I'm working with, do I know that they're diligent and detailed or are they known to miss stuff? They vetted these people to know, the quality of their work, but also their values. And the final thing, this also kind of ties into the fact of why they're quietly successful is that these agents aren't flashy. There's nothing wrong with being flashy. I really mean that. I have a YouTube channel, for goodness sakes. I completely understand everybody markets differently, but this particular type of agent, the way that they market, whether they have a YouTube channel or not, whether they're on social media or not, they're doing it in a way that reflects who they are. So maybe this person is not necessarily the most exciting person in any room. They're not super gregarious. Maybe they just dress normally, don't really like attention, but they're marketing and speaking to clients in a way that honors that, but also shows their value. So maybe that's them just showcasing the fact that, listen, I might not be doing stand-up comedy on the weekends, but I do know what's up with your file at any given time. I am always on top of my stuff. I proactively communicate. You are in good hands with me. I am trustworthy. I'm reliable. The flashy agents that are successful, they can back it up. They're not trying to do something in how they portray themselves that doesn't align with who they really are. And often I see that these agents, a lot of the ways they get referrals are for ways that they're already plugged into their community and giving back to their community. So that could be through, if they're part of a faith organization, if they're volunteering somewhere, if they go to a gym, whatever it might be, they're plugged into a community for things that already interest them and that they care about. And because there's those shared values, then that's a good way for them to find clients and referrals. So based on all the closings I've done over the last decade and the many, many agents I've gotten to deal with, and so many of them being a pleasure, being just like this agent that I'm talking about today, that's what I've observed in what it takes to be one of those quietly successful real estate agents. Oh, and by the way, point number 5, which was continuous education, constantly learning. If you want to be one of those agents that's constantly learning, you can subscribe to this channel because I'm putting out stuff for agents like you all the time.